Be Amazing Podcast.
Welcome to the Be Amazing Podcast. This is actually my first podcast. And, so I was not supposed to start the podcast until probably, I was thinking like middle to the end of February. And then I had the honors of having a friend of mine that I haven't seen since, it's been like 2008. Yeah. Dr. Scott James, really one of the smartest individuals that I have ever met. The guy has got so much information in some of the most interesting topics. So I was like, when I had him here, I was like, I absolutely, without a doubt, do not want to miss this opportunity. So Dr. Scott James, here everybody, he is he's got a doctorate in engineering from the University of California, Irvine, with a bachelor's and master's in also mechanical engineering from University of California, San Diego. So I worked 11 years at Sandia National Laboratories doing high-end government research, and then 2 years in the industry doing consulting jobs with Exponent. For the last 6 years now, he's been a professor at the University of Baylor in geosciences and mechanical engineering. Give it up for Dr. Scott James.
It's a pleasure to be here talking to you today, and it's nice to be just in your presence here and talking about things that will interest folks, hopefully, and make them happier.
For sure. So one of the things I've always known and recognized about Scott is that he's always so freaking happy. The guy's got a smile on his face right now. Guy's built like a Greek god, seriously. He's like, it really makes me want to, get my posture right and maybe do some push-ups if I know he's coming. A guy walks around jacked all the time, but it's a wealth of knowledge. So people ultimately always want to just be happy, right? So many people walk around being miserable in their heads, sneaking thinking, I say, right?
Yeah, there's a simple question that you can ask someone and say, would you be willing to give up all of your possessions if you could be guaranteed happiness for the rest of your life? And the immediate answer is, of course, yes. And that just shows that it's not things that make you happy. You've got to find other ways.
Yeah, it's really finding something to be excited about or something to be happy about. And it seems like that's pretty challenging for a lot of people. People walking down, you can see their body language alone, walking around, heads to the floor.
People just tend to have a negative bias, and that served us well as we were on the savannas, fighting lions. It tends to be that you're about twice as unhappy about losing money as you are about gaining that same amount of money. So a loss
big
or
trade-off,
on the negative side of things feels worse than gaining the same amount of money. And it's kind of our genetic mindset, but I think that if we're mindful, we can change that and work to just be happier people. And a lot of stuff that we'll talk about today will probably be like, oh yeah, it's intuitive, that makes sense. But sometimes we just all need a reminder. It takes a little bit of just, it's common sense when you hear it, but sometimes you forget about it.
Exactly, and we're all students, and we're always learning, always be in a place to learn and grow. You're exactly right. A lot of this stuff is stuff that we already know, right? I knew that, Why didn't I do that? Or why didn't I think of that, right? Just, it's a matter of application, right? It's a matter of actually having it in steps and making happiness so you have like this there's science in happiness, you're saying, right? Sure. And so actually having that, the scientific, to break down the steps, if someone were to try to be happier, right? Because they just feel like they're in the dumps. So, what's the first step? Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it?
Well, I mean, just like you and I are in shape because we exercise, being happy is not an accident. So there are some really simple things that anyone can do, minimal exercises that will actually make a tangible difference. That if you do this for a few days, a week or so, you'll actually notice your happiness will improve. And it's just being grateful and having gratitude in your life. That's the simplest exercise you can have.
Amen.
And
huge.
And so what you can do is called the 3 things exercise. That's what I call it. And a lot of times I'll just ask my friends, tell me 3 things that you're thankful for. And right now, tell me, Ken, what are 3 things that you're thankful or grateful for?
I'm grateful for having a great surrounding of friends, right? I'm grateful for having the setup and the opportunities that I have. And I'm also more than anything, just this year especially, really grateful for my relationship with Jesus Christ, because I'm learning this as I go and learning what love is, and it's been an amazing journey. But I have actually a lot to be grateful for, a lot.
But that 3 things exercise that you did right there, if people do that, not necessarily every day, but say 5 days a week, you'll notice within a week that you'll actually start to feel happier. It's a simple little exercise, just like going to the gym is, and you just say out loud 3 things that you're grateful for, or ask your friend what's 3 things that they're grateful for. Turns out you
sparking the conversation with someone alone, making them think about it, is making essentially you think about it as well. You're asking your friend random, what are 3 things you're grateful for? They're like, what are we talking about? Like, what are you asking me that for? Tell me, right?
It turns out you do have to say it out loud. You can't just do this in your head. You can't be driving down the street and think it. You actually need to verbalize it. So a lot of times when I'm driving into the office, I'll actually talk to myself and say, I'm so grateful for my health, my happiness set point, my friends, my family. But it doesn't need to be anything any more complex than, hey, I live in a country where I flip the light switch and the lights come on.
Right. I mean, being truly grateful for the things that really, really matter.
There's so many things out there to be grateful for. And that little bit of exercise is the single biggest thing that I would say if you just want to improve your happiness.
So gratitude's the number one thing, honestly, for happiness.
Yeah, but they've done lots and lots of studies of this, and it turns out that there's actually a mathematical equation for happiness.
Nice.
So
of course there is.
So,
math solves everything, right?
Yeah, math describes the universe. It's a language of nature.
That's amazing. That's a whole other topic. We're definitely going to be chomping at that one.
We'll get into that if you like. But turns out, like in 1978, they did a study on lottery winners and people who were recently injured and became paraplegics, and they asked them before they'd won the lottery, before they had their injury, how happy they were, and they took note of it. And then after their lottery winning or their injury, 6 months later, they again asked them how happy they were. It turns out that the paraplegics were about as happy 6 months later as they were before their injury, maybe slightly less because they're thinking, it'd be nice to get out of this wheelchair.
Right.
People who won the lottery, they think those are major events, changing your life, I'm going to be happy, were actually slightly less happy 6 months down the road after winning the lottery. So it turns out that your genetic set point is half of your happiness equation. It's how good your parents' genes were to you. Mm-hmm. So 50% of your happiness is not really up to you. It's just what you're born with. Okay. So, we're locked into that. Fine. We can accept that. That leaves another 50% that we want to learn where the source of the happiness is. So if I said, okay, there's life circumstances. I just bought a new car. I got a new job, a new girlfriend. What percentage of that 50% would you say is associated with circumstances? If you just had to guess, just pick a number. So you've got 50% to work with.
I'd say of the 50%, I'd say a quarter of it.
Of course. So another 25%, and that's kind of everyone's intuition, is that circumstances, it's what makes me happy. What's happening today, what job do I have, how much money am I making? It turns out that that's only 10%. 10% of your happiness is circumstances. So it's not a huge amount. That leaves 40%. That last 40%, what is that? Well, that's volition. So happiness, H, is equal to 0.5 times S, your set point, plus 0.1 times C, your circumstance.
Yeah, whoa. You got to back that one up for a second here. So get your pen, get your paper out, and write this down. If you're driving, you got to save this podcast and get this later, because we're going to figure out what this equation actually means. I'm actually stunned here. So
happiness equation, H equals 0.5 times S, your set point. That's your genetic set point. Okay. You don't have any choice about that. 0.1 times C, 10% circumstance. The remaining 40% chance, that's 0.4 times V, volition. It's up to you. This is where you get to decide how happy you can be. So everybody has this 40% to work with. You need to optimize it. If you don't pay attention to it, you're going to miss out on 40% of your happiness. And we just talked about one simple exercise you can do. Three things, exercise, say what you're grateful for. But there's other things that you need to do, pay attention to improve your happiness. So you've got 40% to work with.
Yeah, so now it's about coming up with an exercise plan.
A game plan.
Just like you would if you're going to the gym and you wanted to lose X amount of weight and you want to start a new meal plan. There's got to be, let's say, exercises, right? I want to strengthen myself in these areas.
Strengthen my happiness.
Right, so strengthen my happiness.
So in 1938, Harvard began this longitudinal study of people over their whole lives about happiness, and they followed them throughout their lives, and in 2012, that many years later, they released their findings. And it turned out that the most important thing over the course of your life is relationships. It's quality relationships. And yes, there's differences in gender, men and women. It turns out that women are happier than men in general. Whether they're married women are happier than married men, single women are happier than single men, and widowed women are much happier than widowed men. They lost their husband, and it's a good thing for them.
Yeah, they're like, okay, it's not
that guy who's not so happy. But it's relationships. So it doesn't need to be a marriage. It's just the quality relationships and the friendships that you have.
Your circle.
And so you want to have this quality of friends, and that's what brings that true happiness. That's a big component of that 40%. So make sure you foster those relationships. If you do something simple, go home today and send a text or an email to someone who you haven't talked to for a while and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I wanted to send love and positive vibes your way. Say something nice, pleasant, give them a compliment, thank them for something. Doing that little thing, that little exercise, you'll be surprised at how much happier you are doing that. And not
just them, but now you. It's actually more of you just saying that and committing that to someone else. You actually end up feeling better about yourself.
So you're essentially infecting them with your happiness by doing that.
That's amazing.
So send that little text out, that little email, go home today and be grateful for that person. And I think you'll be surprised at the little boost in happiness you get. And if you did that a couple days a week, that starts to add up and you become a happier person.
It's like compounded, right? You start getting that momentum of happiness, and it's almost like you're on this roll of just making the same recipe every day. I've been telling Bridget about morning mindset, right? So you wake up, it's the first thing in the morning. You got to get your mind in the right place, right? Your body's been stagnant. You're laying there in bed, not moving around a whole lot. Circulation, it's moving, but not it's best. So you get up and you get that body moving, get your blood moving, and focus on something. Get your mindset, either start reading something and get your mind sharpened to where you actually can get out of the clouds, so to speak, or out of the dream space still. A lot of people are stuck in this space, and then they go to work. They get to work at 7:30 or 8, and they're in the clouds until lunchtime. Or maybe they come out for 30 minutes before lunchtime and they eat, and then they're back in it, right? So the objective is make sure that you get up with intent, have a purpose, live that purpose, then make sure that purpose is aligned with your mission, right? And make sure that the mission, your things that you're doing daily are matched up to what's going to create that happiness for you, right?
It will be a positive feedback loop. It will start building upon itself. And you find, for me, love is not a diminishing quantity. The more love I give, the more I have to give.
Oh, I love it.
And the more happiness that you have, the more you're going to have to give to your friends and share with people. So simple things, just be grateful for what you have in life. Take those few minutes to say it out loud. Ask your friends. Send a little text or email. Those are the things that will genuinely make a difference in your happiness level. That's that 40%.
It's simple. That's the simple things too. It's so simple. Mm-hmm. If you really want that effort, if you really want to make the change, then you need to make the effort, right?
And it's very simple. So, in that 40%, you're going to have a big component of it is relationships. Another one is community. It turns out that giving of yourself, doing something charitable, that brings an enormous amount of happiness. People think, okay, what a great, generous person. He's being charitable. Well, it turns out that you're being selfish in a way because that's making you happy.
Yeah, right.
When you do something charitable,
right.
It actually is making you really happy. So doing charitable works is very important to maintaining your happiness and keeping it high. And being productive with your career, what you do for a living. It turns out that actually about 90% of Americans will say that they're satisfied or quite satisfied with what they do. So that's the highest of any country. It's a high level of satisfaction. That's important. But it's because we tend to have control of what we do here in this country. We get to it's under our control about what we do and how we're contributing and earn success. That brings you happiness. It's not how much money you make. There is some money involved.
Money definitely. I know people say, well, if I had more money, I would definitely be a little happier. That's not actually the case.
Money can't buy happiness, but that's not true up to a point. It turns out that until you get to about middle class, lower middle class, money does buy happiness. Because, it gets food on the table, lets you have a vacation every year. But
it makes you happier.
Once you reach about that middle class level, and the number that I came across was $80,000 a year per person, and depending on where you live, actually the happiness curve starts to turn back over. So if they did all these studies, said how much money do you make and how happy you are. As you start making more money, your happiness level goes up, but at some point it actually starts curving back downward, and you become less happy with money because then you have more responsibilities. You've got the car payment, you've got the mortgage, you've got kids' tuitions, you've got all these things that now you have to worry about and take away from that happiness. So money buys happiness only up to a point. After that, it's going to be up to you to maintain that happiness.
At the end of the day, it sounds like no matter what happens, if all else fails, it's still just up to us, right? It's just not like there's nothing out there that we can buy. Although, like you said, it does make you happy to a degree, right? Having something that you, or maybe not even so much of having something that's really, really nice, but doing that yourself and purchasing that self as a level of, hey, I was able to do that because I did this, right? That's rewarding, just knowing that you went through that process. And sometimes it's just what that thing actually means to you. Maybe it's fun. Maybe it's a car. You got to take the top down and drive with the top off, right?
But that's only going to last you 3 months at most. And then
right, because it gets old. All these toys get old after a while. You're like, I've already had it,
So it's earned success in your career, not the money that will bring you happiness. So it has to be earned success. You have to go out there and do the right things to say, okay, I earned this promotion, I earned this raise. Earned success will bring you happiness. So anytime my students come to me and they're on the job market, we talk about the things that are important to them. They always say, okay, how much money am I going to make? I say you've got to answer that question, but ask instead, where are you going to live? What are you going to do? If you can wake up every day, and the worst torture that I can imagine is having my alarm go off Monday morning and me going, I've got to go into work. Instead, you think, I get to go in and
I get to. What you said, I get to. That's key. I tell people all the time. It's not like, well, I have to go do this. Well, can you come in Monday? Well, I can't. I have to work. Well, no, you get to work. It's an opportunity. Look at things as just your perception, right?
Absolutely.
Create that happiness, the perception of happiness.
Absolutely. So just little things like that. It's changing your verbiage, the way you say things.
Huge. Well, you talk with my friend Brian Johnson. That was here. Actually, he was in beer.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Super sharp guy. He's always. I'll be saying something, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I want to do this or what." He goes, "You what?" I was like, I want this," and he goes, "You what?" And I was like, "I think can I hear me or something?" And he's like, "No, it's not that you want. It's say you choose or I have." Right? It's just using words that are higher vibrations. Right? Words that actually compliment you. You know that, I don't know if I've mentioned this to some people earlier at a seminar we're doing. You've heard of this rice study, right? The rice study?
Which one?
So there's a rice study, and I actually wish I had the specifics of it, what it was, where it originally started. But so a group of scientists got a bucket of rice and put it in a clean room, and then they had another room just like it, both clean rooms in Japan, right? Yeah. And then had these buckets of rice, and then these scientists and doctors walked into the room where the one rice was at, and they're like, "Rice, you suck, you this, you that." They start talking really, negative, angry and cuss words, and throughout the whole, just bitching at it, right? And then they went to the next room where the other rice was at, and they're like, "Rice, you're so beautiful. We love you, Rice. You're so fluffy. I'm grateful for you. I love you." And then they come back, X amount of time, and the rice in the room that it was had the language and the angry and the bad energy was black. It was like nasty, and the other one was nice and fluffy and full of life. I'm like, wow. So,
and as a scientist, these are hard things for me to wrap my mind around because it's not intuitive. But these sorts of things, they are important. It matters what you say. They've done studies where they just have computers generate random numbers. All they do is spit out streams of random numbers. And when they get a group of people meditating on positive things, the random numbers start to become more positive. And why is positive different from a negative number at all? Mm-hmm. But a computer generating random numbers will start to bias the selection towards positive numbers when people are meditating. Not only does it respond to the energies that you put out there in your thought process, it's actually predictive. It turned out that the largest swing towards negative numbers was just before the World Trade Center terrorist attack.
Wow.
So it's picking up on energies and vibrations.
So this is before it happened. So before it even
happened, the numbers started going negative. So there's some energies that are out there. And the scientist who runs this says, I don't make any claims about this. I'm just reporting my results. I'm just having this computer generate random numbers. And then when I look back at it, the largest swing to negative numbers happened just before the World Trade Center. A large swing towards positive happened when Obama was elected. So, these positive and negative emotions that are going throughout our society are reflected somehow in just a random number generated in a computer. So,
man, that's so absolutely. It's so deep. I'm thinking, how do I figure this out?
It's hard to wrap your mind around.
It's hard to wrap your mind around, for sure.
The lesson is to be positive, be happy,
right.
Infect others with your happiness, and it will come back to you.
Yes, that's what you said is it's like giving, right? Giving the more you give. I always tell
Charity.
people it's like love is like a box, right? You have like this box. You can only take out of the box what you put in it. So
Love
if
is
you
not
want love,
diminishing.
you can't take 15 loves out, but you've only put 10 loves in, right? You got to fill the box up with love so you're able to receive love, right?
The more love you give in your life, the more you'll have to give. So give that love away, and you're going to have all the more of it. And
Wow, that's a huge. Honestly, I know it sounds so cliche and all that kind of stuff, but I'm thinking really, if you could really just break that down and think about what that truly means, right? And how important it is for you and your character and the way you're going to be living your life. It's something that you should take really serious and really understand. And I'm just saying this for myself, is really focusing this year and last year, really focusing on trying to love myself more, right? That ultimately, the more you love yourself, the more you'll make better decisions on your health. You'll take things more, you'll respect yourself more, right? And ultimately, when you do those things, you are happier, right?
Yes,
So, having goals and doing things and actually accomplishing them, you feel so much better about yourself. That builds a level of confidence.
A rising tide raises all boats. So when you can go out there and do something to make someone else happy, you're going to find it's going to make you happy in the end.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, yeah.
So we have your community, you have your relationships, you have your earned success in your career, and the last step is just your spirituality, and just whatever you choose that to be, try to have it be consistent with your lifestyle and your goals. So, do pay attention to the spiritual aspect of things.
Huge.
So
the highest outcome when it
mind,
comes
body,
to
and
all,
spirit.
You're exactly right. And spirit is always your highest outcome will come from achieving spirit, right? So spirit, mindset, nutrition, the exercise, mind, body, spirit. The spirit connection is a lot more, way more important than people give credit.
It's underappreciated and something that I didn't pay attention to when I was younger.
We could do it ourselves, remember?
So
We had control ourselves. We could do it ourselves. We didn't need anybody else's help. But there's a point in life where you feel like you're broken, you break down, right? Not feeling the best about yourself. And it's almost like you're forced into a corner and you're like, drop to your knees. You really need to understand who God is, know that He loves you, understand the idea behind about being connected spiritually, what that means, what responsibility that is, right?
So just be grateful. Thank your Creator, and happiness will flow from you and come to you.
It sounds easy, right? It sounds easy.
It's all. It makes sense. It's intuitive. We just sometimes all need a little reminder to help us.
Yeah, so
get back on
nowadays
track.
with technology and stuff, there's so many things you can do as reminders, right? Like you're with phones nowadays. As simple as it may sound, if I told you that you need to eat X amount of meals a day and you're just used to not eating at all, right? Having a reminder, maybe your alarm going off on your phone, beep, 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 whatever it is, to remind you, hey, it's time to eat, right?
To
Label that
be
alarm,
grateful.
eat. Something, right?
And to be grateful, have gratitude.
Absolutely.
To thank your Creator, to be spiritual. Little things like that will go a long way towards improving your happiness.
Man, like I said, it sounds really easy, and it really is if you think about just breaking it down into these steps, doing the gratitude to where you're asking people, keeping that a hot topic, if you will. Ask your significant other, ask your coworker, ask the random person at the grocery store,
What are 3 things
compliment
you're
them,
grateful for?
right?
Yes.
Having that plan, like you said, like having that intent when you wake up that like, I'm going to choose to be happy today. I'm not
Choose
just going
happiness.
to choose
So
happiness,
you
right?
just said it right there. I choose happiness in my life. I don't have time for anger. It doesn't do me any good. So I'm going to choose happiness.
Yeah.
Little things like that. Just say that to yourself.
Look at the smile on your face. Every time I see you, like, you're always so happy and smiling. You're like, just like this huge smile. Like, that's why I said, man, honestly, what do you think of a topic to talk with Scott James? I'm like, dude, why is this guy always so happy?
So choose happiness. So little exercises, and you'll be well on your way.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm sure. Listen, so what you can do is check in the bio, and I'm going to, in the description, I'm going to actually have this equation for you to figure out on your own. And when you're not driving, wherever you are, sit down and write the equation out and really try to figure this out for yourself, and try to break down the steps so you're able to measure, first of all, where you are right now and your level of happiness. So, and then let's see if we can accomplish greatness in that area.
that 40%, it's up to
That
you.
40%,
Choose
right?
happiness.
Oh, like I said, it sounds super easy, and it can be as long as you're actually following the steps. So definitely what I want to do is I definitely for a fact, I mean, there's so many other things that we're going to talk about, and we're going to get to talk about massive amounts of knowledge between your ears. I just want to try to soak it all up, and I'm sure everybody else would love to. Let's try to. I'm going to think of some other good topics that we can talk on. Like, what's something that's like
artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. You mentioned that, right?
Where the future is headed with regard to science and technology, and where mankind is headed. It's an exciting time to be alive. We're in an exponential phase of change and growth in science and technology. Humans tend to think linearly, and it's very hard for us to wrap our minds around what exponential change is like. So don't realize how much artificial intelligence is already permeating your life and how much more potential it has. So that's an exciting topic to talk about.
Yes, I know. Charlie talks a lot about that and talks about you starting with, it was a company that you, did, Watson?
IBM.
IBM.
I did my sabbaticals at IBM Research in Dublin and learned about artificial intelligence. And what
a great opportunity just to learn these things like this. And like you said, like you've been able to travel around these things you're doing now, and you get to experience stuff and learn it.
You're like, I'm getting paid to do this. I would pay to do this.
Yeah, so. This is like you get to soak it up. Like every day you're getting to learn things that make you thrive in life. Like, dude, you're winning. Straight up winning. That's what it is. Dr. Scott James.
winning at life.
So. Winning at life.
So let's see. I always talk about artificial intelligence and ask people, would you be willing to have the computer give you advice and would you follow it? And people say, no, I wouldn't do that. And I would argue that, in fact, you will. If you don't pay attention to what the artificial intelligence is going to tell you to do and how to lead your life, you will be left behind. So you're putting your information online all the time. People don't realize that our consciousnesses are going to be uploaded to the internet soon. That's coming.
Well, this is the thing. This is what I was telling you, or I was curious about. I know a while back people would go, "Well, what's smarter, the person or the computer?" Right? And before it's like, well, the person made the computer, right? But it's getting way deeper than that now.
So we're
deeper.
We're switching from an era of programming computers to an era of showing computers. So, if you tell a 5-year-old that a elephant is a large gray animal with this long trunk-like nose, and then you showed the child a picture of a giraffe, an elephant, and a zebra, they'd be able to pick out that elephant. We're now getting to the point where we can do that with computers. We can tell the computer this is what characteristics of an elephant are, and the computer will say, okay, that's an elephant. And it will learn that.
Wow.
So the paradigm is shifting. It's going from programming computers to showing computers. So you need large data sets and you need high performance computing power that are available with these
So that's
GPUs.
key. It's having the power, because now, I mean, it takes a lot to generate so much information. Right? It's like look at like when people were mining Bitcoin and stuff, right? Like it's a ton of amount of energy that machine runs.
So Bitcoin is called a proof of work algorithm, and work is measured in units of joules or energy. Turns out that a few years ago, people were spending more energy mining Bitcoin than 93 countries were using in a year. So that's how much energy was just going into.
Wow. They saw opportunity. They're like, man,
so that's just
something going on here. I'm jumping on this train.
It's energy that's just being used up and not used for other things. So it's just interesting to see that's how people are spending their time. So that's why in China, where they have hydropower, that's cheap.
Hydropower?
So it's dams from hydroelectric
power.
Yeah.
For
so they've got energy available to them. They would build these Bitcoin mining centers, not pay much for the electricity.
In the dams, or
put them next to a dam where energy is cheap,
and
then end up making lots of money. So
essentially, you can mine as much as you can afford to.
The energy cost is
right. It's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous.
It's what is the expense. So now we're spending more energy mining Bitcoins than countries are expending in entire years.
Wow. So what is your what are your thoughts on Bitcoin? I mean, what do you think? I mean, I actually have clients that are investors, and they're like venture capitalists and like that. They're like, no, waste of money. Don't ever do this. It wouldn't work. It's a Ponzi scheme, whatever.
So it's days of hyper growth are behind it, for at least for Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
But I bought some Bitcoin years ago and I forgot about it. And I came back, and it turned out that what was $20 was not $20,000.
Oh, wow.
So it's like you doing the laundry and reaching into your pocket and finding $5,000
exactly.
in there.
Whoa, wait a minute, is this mine?
So it's an interesting way. It's much harder to control. So the governments aren't really fans of this because it's challenging for them.
The problem with my Bitcoin, I had Bitcoin, Bridget had Bitcoin, and I had this code, right? I've looked everywhere for this freaking code. So now I have this Bitcoin. I don't have a ton of Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin I have, I was like, I sure would like to just switch it over to some other, cryptos on some ones that I've kind of heard about, that are kind of rising. And I can't find my freaking passcode to get in there. I'm like, oh man, I just lost my money in there.
I've lost Bitcoin that way too.
It's like honestly, I'm determined. I'm gonna find it. A couple of these cryptos I'm really looking into, and that my friends have been telling me about, that I've been seeing on the rise. Right? I want to find that my code as soon as possible, because if the ones I'm looking at continue to rise like this, and then like one of them said, Charlie was telling me, yeah, it's gonna get to $28. Yes, that one. I was like, oh man. So I'm like, it's already rising.
Get in early on those things.
Oh.
So where are we headed with these sorts of things? Are we putting we're heading to the point where we're going to put our consciousnesses online. We're going to have computers make decisions for us, and people say, oh no, never would do that. But you know what? I'll tell you will, because for example, let's say that you are clicking likes on Facebook. Mm-hmm. If you click 50 likes, Facebook knows you better than most people. It knows what decisions you're going to make, and it can predict what you're going to do. If you click 300 likes, Facebook knows you better than your husband or wife. So it can predict and forecast what you will do just by your clicking likes. So
that's amazing.
Now let's say you have a personal assistant, and it's been tracking all of your decisions for the last few years. You're going to get to a point where you're going to say, okay, Siri, should I date Jennifer or Jill? And it's going to say, well, Scott, you should date Jill. And I know you're not happy to hear that, because Jennifer is quite beautiful, but it turns out that only 15% of the success of a relationship is based on looks, and the other 85% is based on other things that I'm paying attention to and seeing how decisions you're making and what decisions she makes. And if you don't listen to the computer, that's going to set you back. It's going to know what decisions you've made for the last few years, and it will be right.
It'd be like, honestly, you're kind of be an idiot to not follow at that point. Like, it's based on like the percentage. You're like, okay, well, I know that it's able to take all these outcomes of everything that you're done and says, based on another situation just like this, right? It's like, apparently Bill Belichick, like in the Patriots, he apparently, I heard, like, does everything through like these numbers. And
do you punt on fourth down, or do you go for it? So it's analytics. It's lots of data available. So we're coming to the point where people are going to start asking your personal assistant what life decisions to make, and if you don't listen to it, you're going to be left behind. So it's a hard thing for people to wrap their minds around, but that's where we're headed. I mean, already, do you remember people's phone numbers anymore?
You know what? It's funny. I really don't. And honestly, I barely remember my own a lot of times. You know what I mean?
It's because.
But you used to remember them. Online. I used to remember, and I could remember I remember using like the patterns almost. Like I could, my grandparents' number or whatever. This big dial pad up on the wall. You could hit it, and you could almost remember like in patterns. Like you don't even really. Now you just go to the name and you hit send.
My phone number from when I was in kindergarten is 797-7665. I know it.
Wow.
But you don't know phone numbers anymore. So we're putting information online now, and directions to get things. You don't remember how to get to places anymore. You don't need to.
Don't need to. You can go on autopilot, which is crazy. I remember it's wild sometimes when I have clients come over or friends or whatever, and especially some that have been here dozens of times, right? But they still use your GPS on the way here and still manage to get lost.
Right. So,
I'm like, where are you? I'm sorry, I got lost. How come you got lost? You've been here 100 times.
Yeah, so Waze is now owned by Google, and even though it's Google Maps, and it's the most aggressive as far as rerouting you. So
what's crazy too?
It has for getting
for
places.
everything. And I noticed when you came down today, you actually put like where you are ETA, which is brilliant also. Which is crazy though. I like that you can be using Waze, and it'll say there's a cop right there, right? So, and it's like, there really is a cop right then. So the only way that works is basically someone has to report that cop is there, right?
So you've got to be a good member of the community. I always report it when I see it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's almost like you got to, you should do these things to be a loyal user, right? You got to remember it's a community, right? You're helping each other out.
So we're coming to a point online where computers are going to start making decisions, or helping us make decisions. We're going to upload our consciousness online in many ways. That's coming next. So
wow,
it's an exciting time to be alive, because our exponential change in technology is not the way things used to be. It's not a linear growth anymore. Things are changing dramatically.
Yeah, it is. I know people say all the time, it's like an exciting time to be alive, but I understand what you're saying. It really is opportunities right now. I think more people are getting accustomed to the idea and the thought of thinking things into reality, right? Literally to thinking and putting that thought out there. I don't know if it's just me because I'm in this bubble where I'm at, but
you can choose happiness. So
it boils down to that same thing. We're back to it, right?
The energies that you put out there come back to you. So
yeah,
that's an important lesson to keep in mind.
Yeah, man. That's freaking awesome. Yeah, man, honestly, man, thank you more than anything, honestly, for your time today. This is awesome, man. I'm excited to continue talking about more things. I know right now you and I are going to step back and get something to eat. Super hungry, by the way.
And we'll talk about, we'll have another opportunity to do another podcast. We'll talk more about science and technology and what's coming.
Artificial intelligence. I'm all over that. I'm all over that for sure. High five, brother. That's good. Right. Thanks, bro. Awesome, man. Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be doing another podcast, a weekly podcast. A lot of amazing things. Got the Body First app at bodyfirst.com. That's BODYF1RST.com. Really, really amazing things happening. And the Be Amazing podcast that you're on right now will be also linked under Body First. So definitely subscribe. And I'm excited to give you all the content you need to help you totally optimize your life and ultimately be happy, right?
Choose happiness.
Choose happiness. All right, later, guys. Bye-bye.